Well, it's live on what is it, Friday? Or is it Saturday? It's Friday. Yeah, that's right. I went fishing today. I did. I'm not one of those podcast preachers. I'm a live preacher. I don't know. Just having fun. It's Friday night. Thought I'd come on and grab my Bible. I want to thank every one of you for coming on, watching my show over the years. Sure appreciate that. I have a Linktree account. You've probably seen that before. You've probably seen my website already, RockyHancheyMinistries.com. Appreciate you going on to that. I've got a Discord server on there where we have the, what do we do on there? The Bible Life Coach. That's right. You can come on there and join with my Discord and get a free phone call. Yeah, help you out a little bit. But tonight, just got my Bible setting out. I'm going to read from it here in a minute. It's good to read the Word before you go to bed. I was cleaning my glasses off the whole time. Otherwise, I have a really difficult time seeing when it gets late at night. But I want to read tonight. Somebody's coming on there. Somebody dinged my dinger. But I want to read from the Bible before you go to bed tonight. And what should we read from? Okay, let's try Psalms chapter 78. Psalms chapter 78. I'm just going to read from the Bible. And I'm reading from Psalms chapter 78 because it's probably been quite a while since you've read Psalms chapter 78. So here's what it says. Listen, dear friends, to God's truth. Bend your ears to what I tell you. I'm chewing on the morsel of a proverb. I'll let you in on the sweet old truth, stories we heard from our fathers. Counsel we learned at our mother's knee. We're not keeping this to ourselves. We're passing it along to the next generation. God's fame and fortune, the marvelous things that he has done. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? That's Psalms chapter 78, verses 1 through 4. Let's keep reading, though, see what it has to say. He planted a witness in Jacob, set his word firmly in Israel, then commanded our parents to teach it to their children, so the next generation would know and all the generations to come. He's now talking about us. Know the truth and tell the story so their children can trust in God. Never forget the works of God, but keep his commands to the letter. Heaven forbid they should be like their parents, bullheaded and bad, a fickle and faithless bunch who never stayed true to God. The Ephraimites, armed to the teeth, ran off when the battle began. They were cowards to God's covenant. They refused to walk by his word. They forgot what he had done, marvels he had done right before their eyes, and they forgot him. He performed miracles in the plain sight of their parents in Egypt, out of the fields of Zoan. He split the sea and they walked right through it. He piled the waters to the right and to the left. He led them by day with a cloud, led them all night long with a fiery torch. Do you ever imagine this? If this was you, an Israelite back in the day, would have you followed after God? Or would have you been bullheaded just like them? Think about that. He split rocks in the wilderness. He gave them all they could drink from underground springs. He made creeks flow out from sheer rock and water pour out like a river. And all they did was sin, even more sin. They rebelled in the desert against the high God. They tried to get their own way with God, clamored for favors, for special attention. They whined like spoiled children. Why can't God give us a decent meal in this desert? Sure, he struck the rock and the water flowed. I turned my page of my Bible. Isn't that amazing, though? You see all these things that God has done, and still they murmured and they complained. How about some fresh baked bread? How about a nice cut of meat? When God heard that, he was furious. His anger flared against Jacob. He lost his temper with Israel. It was clear they didn't believe God. He had no intention of trusting in his help. It was clear that they didn't trust God. But God helped them anyways. He commanded the clouds and gave orders that opened the gates of heaven. He rained down showers of manna to eat. He gave the bread of heaven. And they ate the bread of the mighty angels. He sent them all the food that they could eat. He let the east wind break loose from the skies, and he gave a strong push to south wind. This time it was birds that rained down, succulent birds, an abundance of birds. He aimed them right for the center of their camp. All around their tents there were birds. They ate and they had their fill. He handed them everything they craved on a platter, but their greed knew no bounds. They stuffed their mouths with more and more. Finally, God was fed up. His anger erupted. He cut down their brightest and best. He laid low Israel's finest young men. And can you believe it? Can you believe this? They kept right on sinning. All those wonders, and they still wouldn't believe. So their lives dribbled off to nothing to show for their lives but a ghost town. When he cut them down, they came running for help. They turned and they pled for mercy. They gave witness that God was their rock, that high God was their redeemer, but they didn't mean one word of it. They lied through their teeth the whole time. They could not have cared less about him. They wanted nothing to do with his covenant. And God, still compassionate. He forgave the sin. He didn't destroy. Over and over, he reigned in his anger, restrained his considerable wrath. He knew what they were made of. He knew there wasn't much to them, and how often in the desert they had spurned him. They tried his patience in those wilderness years. Time and again, they pushed him to the limit. They provoked Israel's holy God. How quickly they forgot what he had done. They forgot their day of rescue from the enemy. When he did miracles in Egypt, wonders on the plain of Zoan. He turned the river and its streams to blood, not a drop of water fit to drink. He sent flies which ate them alive and frogs which bedeviled them. He turned their harvest over to the caterpillars, everything they had worked for to the locust. He flattened their grapevines with hail. A killing frost ruined their orchard. He pounded their cattle with hail, led thunderbolts loose on their herds. His anger flared. A wild firestorm of havoc, an advanced guard of disease-carrying angels to clear the ground, preparing the way before him. He didn't spare those people. He let the plague rage through their lives. He killed all the Egyptian firstborns, lusty infants, offspring of Ham's virality. If y'all know the story about Ham and Noah's sons, you ought to go back and read that. What a disgrace he was. Then he led his people out like sheep, took his flock safely through the wilderness. He took good care of them. They had nothing to fear. The sea took care of their enemies for good. He brought them into his holy land. This mountain he claimed for his own. He scattered everyone who got in their way. He staked out an inheritance for them. The tribes of Israel all had their own places. But they kept on giving him a hard time. They rebelled against God, the high God. They refused to do anything he told them. They were worse. And if that's possible, then their parents, traitors, crooked as a corkscrew. Their pagan orgies provoked God's anger. Their obscene idolatries broke his heart. When God heard their carryings on, he was furious. He posted a huge no over Israel. He walked off and he left Shiloh empty, abandoned the shrine where he had met with Israel. He let his pride and joy go to the dogs, turned his back on the pride of his life. He turned them loose on fields of battle. Angry, he let them fend for themselves. Their young men went to war and never came back. Their young women waited in vain. Their priests were massacred, and their widows never even shed a tear. Suddenly, the Lord was up on his feet like someone roused from a deep sleep, shouting like a drunken warrior. He hit his enemies hard. He sent them running, yelping, not daring to look back. He disqualified Joseph as leader, told Ephraim he didn't have what it takes, and he chose the tribe of Judah instead, Mount Zion, which he loved so much. He built a sanctuary there, resplendent, solid and lasting as the earth itself. But then he chose David, his servant, handpicked him from his work in the sheep pens. And one day he was caring for the ewes and their lambs, and the next day God had him shepherding Jacob, his people Israel, his prized possession. His good heart made him a good shepherd, and he guided the people wisely and well. That's Psalms chapter 78. Been quite a while since you read it, huh? Well, thank you for coming on with me tonight and spending time with me in the Word, reading that. It thrills my soul. Anyways, God bless you. Thank you for coming on. But like I said, check out my stuff, if you get time. Share this with somebody. Go to my TikTok page, my YouTube, my Instagram. But God bless you. Until tomorrow, have a wonderful, blessed night.